Hello, everyone. It's Venus Rising from Venus Rising Tarot, and today we are doing a pick a card reading for career and shmoney. So today we have three piles. As always, timestamps will be down below, but if I can always ask you to pick with your intuition rather than your physical eye. And remember that this is a general reading, so if it doesn't resonate, then just let it flow. So, without further ado, for pile number one, we have the opal. For pile number two, the cloudy quartz. And pile number three, we have the sunstone. So when you're ready, you're gonna make sure that you're in a comfortable position. I'm gonna be leading you through a guided meditation. You're gonna be breathing in through your nose and breathing out through your mouth. So you're gonna be breathing in for 5, holding for 2, and breathing out for 5. You're gonna breathe in for 5, hold for 2, breathe out for 5, breathing in for 5, holding for 2, and breathing out for 5. Alright, welcome to your reading, my lovely pile number ones. So as I mentioned, today is all about your career and shmoney and seeing what messages or advice Spirit has for you based on your current energies. So you guys picked the lovely opal. Let's see what your tarot cards say. So we have Temperance as well as Queen of Wands coming in very strongly here. This feels like abundant. This feels positive. So Spirit is really trying to make sure that you're channeling your creative energy. The Queen of Wands is a very fiery, very creative, feminine energy. As always, when we're talking about feminine and masculine, we're only talking about energies, not prescribing any sort of gender values to them, but tapping into those gifts because of the temperance here, letting you know that your creativity is a divine gift. And at times you may have not, necessarily seen it as so, but this is definitely a call from Spirit to let you know that your creativity is very much divinely orchestrated. And this is like the temperance here with the cups is Spirit really wants you to just channel into what was given to you. As I'm feeling for my pile number ones, you guys have a lot of innate abilities and a vast array of skill sets and interests. And at times it may feel overwhelming for you, having an interest in certain things, but also being able to be flexible and sort of like a jack of all trades. And that may feel sort of like overwhelming or disorienting and feeling that you don't really have like a clear path forward. But Spirit wants you to know that that is your path forward. My eyes are really drawn to, like this like etching in the hill or mountains that's leading up to the sun. This is very much your path. Your path is to channel your creativity in all those different facets, even if it seems sort of like conflicting that you might be really into, math and algorithms, but also, dance. And there's, math in music, and it's a connection that maybe not everybody else sees, but definitely that you see. And Spirit is just letting you know that your career should be guided by your interests and your divine gifts. Like I'm very much hearing like the path of least resistance. That may be contradictory to some of you and your upbringing and your philosophies and feeling like, oh, like it has to be harder, it can't be this easy. But Spirit is letting you know that your path when it comes to money and like career especially is a path of least resistance. And it's not to say that it won't be work, and it's not to say that if you find something you love, like there won't ever be you won't ever feel like how does that saying go? Like, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And Spirit's like, that's not the case, because you will. And as with all things, like you will, even if you love it, you'll lose sort of like sight and purpose of it and sort of be like, oh, is this worth it? But what Spirit is really calling you to do is be like, the path with ease is something that you are naturally good at and can build from there. And yes, like I'm hearing some of you being like, okay, what about, building up areas of weakness? And that is important, but what's equally, if not more important, is building up those areas of strength, those areas that you naturally have an affinity to, so you can thrive and excel. And I'm hearing for a lot of my pal number ones, you guys have multiple areas that you have a natural affinity to. And Spirit really wants you to spend your energies focused on these areas and improving them and developing your skill sets in them so that you can be stronger. And yes, working on things that you're not necessarily as good at, but really the Spirit wants you to take the path of least resistance, because that's why you got these gifts, right? And it may have taken you a while to get to this place, I'm hearing. But now that you're there, or if you're not there yet, when you get there, it's just remembering that you were not put on this earth to have uphill battles, to have, undue difficulty where it's not necessary. And I'm hearing that for Spirit, your career was always meant to be an area of ease for you. So even if, you may not have had like a lot of money growing up, but it's very much an area of ease is sort of the intended path Spirit has. And like, yes, there will be lessons attached to it, particularly around money management, which is what I'm hearing for some of you. So please be mindful. As cliche as it sounds, like budgeting helps, and just seeing how much expenditure you're having and tracking, your income, your incoming and your outgoing. And that's really where like the biggest money lesson is for you in terms of management of it. Because with the abundance energy that I'm getting from the piles, I'm hearing that a lot of you like the finer things in life, or maybe just like to indulge, where it's like every single day is treat yourself. You remember like Donna from Parks and Rec and Aziz Ansari's character, whose name I cannot remember, but like I'm getting that kind of energy. So like money management seems to be an area, but whatever, like your creative talents and wherever it lies, right? And you can be creative in a lot of ways. Like, I know when people hear creativity, they immediately jump to the arts. But you can be creative in your problem solving in law. And like lawyers are not necessarily seen as a creative field, but you have to come up with a lot of creative solutions. So you very much have this innate ability to be creative and to see many different sides of things and harness, those abilities of being able to see sort of every single side or multiple sides and see multiple different outcomes to sort of lead you to the solution that's best suited to the current situation and the current energy. So that is very much what I mean when I'm saying creative. So it doesn't necessarily have to be arts, but it could be for you. But just letting you know that whatever whatever the creativity is and holds for you, that's sort of the path that you are meant to go down. Maybe not so much, a traditional path, but definitely not, you're not meant to end up in something which is just, a paycheck for you, right? And life circumstances may dictate you ending up in roles like that. And I'm hearing some of you that may, if that's not the situation you're in right now, that could have been in the past where you were at certain jobs and in certain environments financially because of necessity. But Spirit wants you to really hone in on what your natural gifts and abilities are, and use that, and even use the experiences where you felt that you were working in dead-end jobs and just here to get a check and nothing more, and use those skills to help you in this path of least resistance. Let's see what other messages we've got for you. So we've got the moon, so very much being guided by your intuition, and channeling. This is just the energy that I'm getting strongly from this pile is very much like that helping hand from Spirit, your ancestors, and your guides, and they're very much being present and speaking to say that this, as I said, and I feel like I'm a broken record, but you are not meant to have resistance in your career and your money, and it's supposed to be ease for you. And the resistance comes when you lack focus, right? And it's just a bunch of I don't want to say schemes, but just going into a bunch of different areas and opportunities and starting different projects with no clear direction, because you're not being guided by your gifts. You're being guided by sort of what can I make money from? And again, totally understand that, having financial responsibilities is real, and you need to think in that way. But what your greatest success for you when it comes to money and career is going to be when you get into that flow state, when you find that ease. And that's even illustrated by the Two of Wands. And very much so, the depiction of the Two of Wands, where you see this individual thinking about, okay, what can I do with what I've been given, right? And dreaming up, starting up a fire. And that's being what Spirit really wants you to do is think of, okay, what gifts were I given? What gifts were I put on this earth to do? What did I want to be when I was a kid? Because usually children have sort of an affinity to the careers with the skill sets that they feel that they are naturally good at. And then bringing it back to that very simple, what am I good at? What can I do with these skills? And that ease, So if you're funny, where are the careers where it's not going to be frowned upon for you to share your innate wit and your innate humor and your innate ability to make people smile? That may not necessarily be a comedian, right? It's not always a linear path to be okay, I am good at being funny, I need to become a comedian. And it's oh, well, I enjoy interacting with people, so I could be, in student affairs or in something that's people facing, something that brightens somebody's day, like a youth worker or something like that, or bringing sort of your humor to also your logic and problem solving, and maybe being a public servant or a civil servant. And thinking about it laterally in that way. So Spirit wants you to think laterally when it comes to your natural gifts and abilities, and really rely on your intuition, because Spirit has given you a lot of gifts, and there's a lot of things that you are naturally good at. And it's really just up to you to use those gifts, like you see in the Two of Wands, to create these opportunities for yourself. Because as I said, and even you can see the repeating imagery in like this card as well as this card. It's not meant to be a path filled with obstacles for you in terms of finding something which can generate you income, but also that you enjoy. So really just tapping into what you're naturally good at and what you can build from there. Okay, my lovelies, that is all I am seeing for you for today's reading. Thank you so much for letting me read for you. Bye, and sending you off with all my love and light. See you next time. Hello, my lovely pile number twos. Welcome to your reading. So today we are talking about messages from Spirit for your career and shmoney. So my lovely pile number twos, you picked this gorgeous cloudy quartz. I'm going to set it aside and dive right in. So you've got the Two of Cups, beautiful energy, and the Star in reverse. So the Star is something that I always see as wish fulfillment, and it feels like you are destined to have your wishes come true in terms of your career and money. But what is also telling me is that you have a tendency to be a workaholic, right? And with the sort of jugs right here being in reverse, it very much feels like you need to make sure that whatever you're doing has that balance of rest and that you fill up your own cup instead of constantly pouring out, because it feels like that is the balance that you have yet to achieve, where it's always about pouring out of your cup and giving everything sort of your all, but sometimes to your detriment. And it may be because you have just a lot on your plate to begin with. So you're constantly just, going from one thing to the other and running on like empty or minimal sort of energy reserves. But Spirit really, really wants you to make sure that in your career and money, because you are sort of like your wishes are meant to come true when it comes to career and money. I'm talking about goals that you set for yourself, where it's like, oh, you want to accomplish this by this date or this by other date. I just heard someone say, oh, like, so I'm going to win the lottery. No, babe, I did not say that. That is not coming through here. If you do, congrats. Remember this reading. But the energy of this is that you are meant to have your wishes fulfilled. So, it feels like you are the kind of person who, whenever you're taking a job or looking at an opportunity, once you have it, or even before you have it, you'll sit down and think to yourself, maybe write out in a list of being like, this is everything that I want to accomplish in this role or with this company or within your own business, because some of you may be entrepreneurs. But because you're so like dedicated and so focused on the task at hand, sometimes you guys neglect yourself, right? And I'm thinking of, just sitting at your like desk or workstation or working at a task so long that you forget to eat, right? And I've definitely been there. But making sure that you are taking care of yourself. This is very much like a self-care energy, right? And like the Two of Cups here, I'm seeing this as two messages, so take this where it resonates. So sort of like if the workaholic message seems to be resonating with you, if you're not sort of there yet, just take this as like a cautionary tale and sort of advice from Spirit to make sure that you have a balance of rest, and it is okay not to work and to not be, productive in the way that capitalism has deemed that productivity exists, right? So that is essential and vital to rest and recuperation. Making sure that you have those breaks where you are connecting with like loved ones, you are connecting with yourself, and you are taking time just to be. And just being can be like watching your favorite TV show. Just being can be connecting with loved ones, hanging out with friends, journaling, reading, just making sure that you have time to rest and re energize yourself. And with the Two of Cups here, very much seeing that as the two things coming into balance, right? And you have sort of like your work side and your productive side, but also your rest side coming into union. And that very much being what Spirit wants you to do and maintain this equilibrium, and not necessarily to be in a path where you have to sacrifice yourself and your health, because your health is your wealth. And oftentimes we take that for granted, because if we are fortunate enough, we spend a lot of our life being relatively healthy, and it is not until something sort of catastrophic or fatal interlopes and like shakes us that the ways in which we are, existing may not be conducive. So I'm hearing for some of you, like, you have experienced burnout in the past. Some of you may be going through it right now. And, like with the pandemic and working from home, I'm hearing some of you are experiencing burnout at rates that you'd never really had before, because you are so much of a go-getter and doing things and being and like very on top of your like shit, and very organized and dedicated to the stuff that you're doing. And for some of you, it could even be like a toxic boss, like entertaining this idea that you always need to be sort of available all the time because you're just at home, right? But you don't need to be. And that's something that someone's always said to me, is that if you're in a job and you start to do more of the work outside of your traditional working hours, the longer you do that, the more you are devaluing sort of your hourly rate, right? So let's say you get like 20 an hour for 7 hours a week. If you're working 14-hour days, then you're basically just saying, oh yeah, like my time is not worth this much. I have now halved my rate. I am now making like $10 an hour because of how much I'm working, right? And Spirit really wants you to find that balance, and find that balance within yourself and your environment, so that you can always have your cups in equilibrium, and whatever you pour out, making sure that you pour that back in to yourself. And I'm getting a message for a smaller amount of you, but it has to be said, that in your career and money path, that sort of, and this is really beautiful, but it has to do with your divine counterpart, and and that is part of the reason that your souls are going to come into union in this incarnation, is going to be to accomplish something in a career. So you guys could be in similar fields or complementary fields, and you will create something together, and that's coming through strongly. And for some of you, you may also meet at work. Let's see what other messages we're getting here. Yes, Justice card. So again, calling you. Let me pick up the rest. Calling you to bring yourself into balance and equilibrium, and making sure, again, like a lot of water and cup imagery is present in all 3 cards here. So making sure that you are not depleting yourself, right? Because it's not until we've hit 0 that we recognize, oh, okay, the way that we've been working, the way that I've been working is not sustainable for myself. And it's a lot harder to come back from 0 than it is from maybe like 50%. So if you're like want to visualize it this way, is like make sure you never dip below 40%, right? And 40% is like pushing it, but I know if I say 50 to 60, that may sound a little aggressive for some of you guys. So as a absolute max, 40%, because you want to make sure that you can stay sort of engaged with what you're doing. And if you continually dip below that equilibrium, then it's a lot easier to experience burnout, but also just fatigue with what you're doing. And if you're involved in like activism or community organizing, then it can even be sort of like a situation where you no longer care about the cause, not necessarily in an active way where obviously you still care about what you're doing, but in a way where something comes up, you're just sort of get desensitized to it. And it's just sort of like, what's the point? I'm not really here. And like I know a lot of people who've worked in areas like supporting people who've experienced a lot of trauma, and it's often called like compassion fatigue when you have to listen to people's trauma and experience it secondhand and just be like, okay, well, like nothing matters anymore, and like losing perspective where because you're used to having people unpack their, childhood traumas or their current traumas and experiences when your friends talks to you about losing their wallet, right? And that being a very stressful and traumatic incident for them, then you're of the position, because you're experiencing compassion fatigue, from not working in a way where, you don't necessarily have boundaries and a good divide between what you're giving out as well as like what you're pouring back in. Then when your friend comes to you with that sort of support, it's just sort of like, meh, like that is not the worst thing that could happen to you, right? And that's, like in the grand scheme of things, that is true. But it's a loss of perspective where we can hold space for there is always going to be something worse, but your friend is obviously going through something right now. And there, needs to be that balance. And with the Ace of Pentacles, or the Ace of Discs here, coming in strongly that, new opportunities being birthed. So it feels like you are on the precipice of a career and money evolution. Nothing's coming through strongly with timing here. So again, I feel like it's very much predicated on this balance. And yeah, that's the message. So Spirit wants you to really achieve this balance and to really be conscious of, maintaining this equilibrium here in your finances and with your work life and your work habits, because there is a new sort of career era that's being birthed for you and a new like money opportunity. But Spirit is hesitant to have it come through because it wants to make sure that you have this lesson of rest and have this lesson of, okay, I do not need to be producing, right? And even though we set a schedule for ourselves, being flexible with that and saying, okay, especially if you're an entrepreneur or content creator, and saying, okay, like this is what I would like to produce this week, right? And if that's content creation, it's like these are the different posts. This is what I'd like to produce this week for, the audience and the things that I'm trying to build here. But also recognizing that you may wake up one day and just be like, all I have energy to do is just be, or, something's come up and you are moving or have a trip and, life gets in the way, but being flexible within that sense and saying, okay, we're not going to work yourself to the bone because you can't come and die on this hill of, work and productivity. So Spirit really wants to make sure that you understand the balance, because you can very much work for somebody else and achieve this balance, because some of you may be entrepreneurs, some of you may work for yourself, but some of you may not. And I feel like with gig culture and grind culture, there's a lot of encouragement to have multiple side hustles and to, be your own boss. And if that's not you, it's not you, right? Not everybody's meant for that path, but it can seem that it's something that we have to do because everyone is doing it, and that's definitely not the case. You have to find the right balance for you, and once you sort of prove to spirit that you've understood this lesson and you can maintain a principle of making sure that you stay within equilibrium, like net equilibrium, because there will be dips, and sometimes you're pouring in way more than you're pouring out, and sometimes you're pouring out way more than you're pouring in, but it's just to remind you not to consistently exist in one of these two extremes. All right, my lovelies, that is all I'm seeing for you today. Thank you so much for letting me read for you. And I will see you next time with all my love and light. Hello, my pile number 3s. Welcome to your reading. So today we are talking about your career and your money. So we are just going to be going over what messages and guidance spirit has for you as it pertains to your career and money. And you guys picked this gorgeous sunstone, which I've been calling a sandstone, but you know what? Moving on. And let's start with some of your tarot. So you've got the 6 of Wands in reverse and the 5 of Swords in the upright. 6 of Wands rather, has come up a lot in the readings that I've been doing for the collective recently. It's really interesting. There's one card that I've seen a lot of is the 6 of Wands. So with the 6 of Wands and the 5 of Swords, I feel like I'm being told a story here because, 5 follows 6 numerically. But with the 5 of Swords here, it feels like you have been fighting for something for some time. And Spirit also wants you to ask yourself, like, what exactly are you fighting for, right? And coming back to your mission statement. Like, what are you, because it feels like very protective energy, that there's something that you've been fighting so hard to protect. And Spirit really just wants you to interrogate that a little bit. So it's not necessarily good or bad, but in the 5 of Swords depiction, we have this person who's clearly won the battle, right? After all of this energy and, maybe chaos and, being fought at every single turn. But what I'm most drawn to in this image is this person in the back who's clearly mourning the defeat, right? Or that's the energy that I'm getting from this card and from this spread today, is that, there is, for some of you, it could be mourning or loss that you've been fighting so hard against. But Spirit just wants you to take the time to really think about what is it that you've been fighting for and what have you been protecting. Because I feel like for some of you, it may get lost. And because you've been in this defendant, protector energy, and this battle very much feels like very yang, very Mars energy. So you could have Scorpio or Aries placements, or, your Mars placement could be in an auspicious house. So those are houses that are ruled traditionally by Aries or Scorpio. Wow, English is just not happening. But that's what you're being called to reflect on, because there does feel like there is sort of forward movement, but it feels like it's being inhibited in some way. I'm gonna need to pull some clarifiers, because with the 6 of Wands energy, they're facing in the same direction. So if you are, I'm definitely getting the sense that you are, there is going to be forward motion. But with the Six of Wands being in reverse, I'm feeling that there's some stagnation. So what is the Six of Swords in reverse about, Spirit, for my pile number 3? Okay. Yeah, this is making a lot more sense. So we've got the Daughter of Cups to clarify, as well as the Chariot. So with the Chariot, forward movement, right? That's what the Chariot is characterized by. And with the Chariot coming up, I'm very much getting the sense that this is sort of destined and ordained. On the bottom of the deck, Six of Wands upright. So there is going to be forward movement in your career, but you're just being asked to pause and reflect. And for some of you, with the Daughter of Cups coming up, it's to sort of enjoy the process, right? And move out of this very defending energy and protecting energy. And it was being like, okay, a call to lay down arms, if we're really diving into this battle lingo, and saying like, you've won, and so it's time to, like, you've achieved and you've accomplished. So it feels like for some of you, a tendency to be achieve something and then continue to be like, okay, what's next? And you're being called here with the Daughter of Cups, which translates to the Page of Cups, to really slow down and enjoy the journey a bit more. And with the Daughter of Cups, right, I'm feeling that, like as we see the Court cards in tarot, like the Page is very young energy, and it feels like you are about to be beginning something, right? And bring that joy of starting something new back to this experience is what you are being urged to do by Spirit here. But with the Chariot and the Six of Wands, and the Six of Wands again coming up at the bottom of the deck in the upright, there is going to be forward motion when it comes to your career. But you are being called to just sort of take a step back and interrogate, why have I, been this defensive energy? Why am I this is what it is. It's conquering energy, and just being like, okay, what is next? Who else can I slay, right? That's why I was drawn to this. It's like, who else can I slay? That's what this is. That's what this Five of Swords is. So if you've been in this energy of, or you have this tendency to achieve something and then continue to be like, what's next? Right? And as healthy as it is to have ambitions and to be ambitious, and I'm feeling very much for you guys, like that's why I thought of you being, very much in your Mars, like that Mars energy, that Yang energy. As good as it is to be in that, okay, like I've achieved this, like what's next, right? And to set goals and not to settle for less for yourself. There is something to be said about always being in that energy, as with everything in life, right? I feel like I talk about balance a lot in my readings, but that's very much what, life is. It's not good to just solely exist in one energy, right? Like they all have their advantages, but also their disadvantages. So being in this energy of being, very ambitious to an extreme and saying, okay, what's next? It's good to have that forward looking and that planning. And Spirit doesn't want you to lose that, right? That's part of like why you're being blessed with the Chariot and the Six of Wands coming up twice, right? Things are progressing and things will be moving forward for you in your career and your money, and you've already seen evidence of that because I'm hearing for some of you, you guys have achieved things like way beyond what you ever thought possible at the beginning of the journey. And right, that's why the Page of Cups is coming up for you, or the Daughter of Cups is coming up for you. Again, it's to remind you of that beginning, right? You're about to be entering a new beginning, right? But you're also being called to remember what it was like at the beginning of this journey. And when you first started, or had an inkling that this was your path, or you started in, you know, your money and your career, and started planning in those areas, and what you had originally thought you would achieve, what would be the limit, you have long surpassed. But it's remembering that like humbling element of just sitting down and reflecting and being like, I am actually so grateful. And Spirit doesn't necessarily think that you are ungrateful for what you've achieved, but being in this constant energy of saying, oh, okay, like what's next, can make it a lot harder for you to stay rooted in gratitude. So what you are being, you know, called to do is bring it back to the beginning. So when you start to become blessed again, because there's a lot of like career and money blessings coming in for you. Again, I'm not going to get into timelines. And no, I'm not promising that you will win the lottery. I too would like to win the lottery. but like there's a lot that's coming, but Spirit wants you to stay in this energy of, or go back to this energy of gratitude, which very was present in the beginning of all of our journeys, right? Because we think like, okay, this will be this, I'll make it here and I'll be good, right? And then you make it, and then suddenly a whole new world opens up, which you can see in the Chariot, which was the universe or the constellation of Cancer over top this person, right? Like the stars are literally opening up and aligning and really just letting you know that the sky is well and truly the limit, but bringing it back to gratitude. And that's going to help you and also keep you humble, because the ego is going like the death of a lot of opportunities when we get pride get in our way, when we let ego get in our way, and when the ego runs rampant, and then it can often have like a detrimental impact to our, not only our relationships, but to the opportunities that present themselves as well. And Spirit does not want this to happen to you. So this is really what the message is coming through for you guys, as you are going to be like materially blessed. But again, like even if things aren't happening for you, because I was picking up on a bit of stagnation energy for some of you, and that is also just a reminder to be grateful for how far you've come, even if it doesn't feel like you're going anywhere in this current moment, because I'm here to tell you that you very, very, very much are. And we've seen like so much confirmation of this in today's reading. Okay, I hope that helps and brings you guidance, clarity, and peace. Thank you so much for letting me read to you my lovely pile number 3s. And until I see you next time, with all my love and light.